European Grand Prix takes place at Germany's Nürburgring. This is Schumacher country, so it's no surprise to see the stands coated in Ferrari red. However, their heroes sent heart rates rocketing during the installation lap. A fuel pickup problem struck the spare car, which left the pole sitter stranded on the circuit. Help came from an unlikely and less than desired source. Schumacher's rescue resulted in a PR nightmare. Once back at the pits, he was able to take the start in his designated race car. A somewhat calmer sellout crowd focuses on the start, particularly the third all-Schumacher front row of the season. Both get away cleanly, but Ralph may not think his brother's tactics are whiter than white. Montoya claims third, while Coulthard slots into fourth. With the exception of Tarso Marquez, everybody gets through the infamous Castrol S safely. The Schumachers lead, followed by Montoya, Coulthard, Hakkinen and Trulli. Strategy master Ross Brawn looks on as his number one driver comes under increasing pressure from his brother. The Nürburgring's long straights should favour the BMW V10, but the Ferrari is a tremendous all-round package and has been on the pace at nearly every race so far. The Williams mechanics are thinking several laps ahead to the first stops. However, Ralph may not need their help to capture the lead. Gearbox and electrical problems end Grand Prix number 100 for Olivier Panis. Reliability is BAR's Achilles heel. Mirrors showing a dangerously close Williams are Michael's major concern, and Montoya will only add to those worries. It's time to put the pit crew to the ultimate test as the leaders are in for their first stops. There's very little in it, but Ferrari get their revenge for Canada and Michael stays ahead. Ralph's pursuit of his brother could soon end as he puts a wheel over the pit exit line. That's against the rules, and to make matters worse, he's now fourth behind Coulthard, which will soon become third as temporary leader Montoya makes his stop. Ralph retrieves second from Coulthard's off-the-pace McLaren. Ralph races on under a cloud, while Coulthard has another Williams to deal with. Over the last two races, Montoya's driving has been erratic, to say the least, and the Scot will be all too aware of that now. The Colombian uses his power advantage to close up on Coulthard, but misses his braking point and loses all the momentum he had just built up. Ralf Schumacher's punishment for crossing the pit lane exit line is a 10-second stop-go penalty. He drops to fourth behind Coulthard, Montoya and Michael Schumacher. The Colombian has profited from his teammate's mistake and Coulthard's pit stop, but will do well to threaten the world champion. For the second consecutive race, Trulli slows to a crawl, this time with a transmission problem. Fretson's faulty traction control ends another miserable weekend for the Irish team. Barrichello's rather dreary race is livened up by a spot of rallycross. There's no need for divine intervention though. The Brazilian is far enough ahead of Hakkinen to stay in fifth. Barring miracles, Prost's run of point-scoring finishes will soon come to an end. Jean Alesi makes sure of that by spinning out of 11th place. Another near faultless performance earns Michael Schumacher his fifth win of the season. Montoya earns second place after a controlled drive, ahead of Coulthard and Ralf Schumacher. The world champion goes 24 points clear in the Drivers' Championship.
We had a nice race again together, Ralph and myself, until the stop and go. So it was quite an entertaining weekend, and tough weekend as well, because then in the end John Pablo was coming and pushing, and so in this respect we're very delighted to have finished where we are.
Round 10 sees the Formula 1 fraternity at Manicourt for the French Grand Prix. A spectacular display from the country's Air Force takes the fans' minds off matters on track, while Irish midfielder Roy Keane tries to do the same for Eddie Jordan. Qualifying saw Ralf Schumacher take his first Formula 1 pole position, ahead of his brother. Coulthard and Hakkinen fill out the second row. Mika Hakkinen gets an attack of McLaren's start line maladies as for the fourth time this season, and McLaren fails to lead the grid. Gearbox failure ends the Finns' race before it even started. A 50% retirement rate scuppers his World Championship campaign. With the flying Finn grounded, the now 21 car field sets off. Ralf leaves his brother behind, and Michael now has to fight off Coulthard and Montoya. Ferrari's number 1 wins that battle. Coulthard is third, ahead of Montoya, Trulli and Barrichello. Villeneuve can't escape BAR's reliability problems. That first podium in Spain must seem a long time ago for Craig Pollard. Sauber have trouble locating Raikkonen, while their finished charge zeroes in on 7th placed Frentzen. Can the Rookie of the Year candidate earn his 4th point-scoring drive of the season? Irvine lines up 9th placed Olivier Panis. The Frenchman opens the door at the final turn, and the Ulsterman goes through. Jaguar manager Niki Lauda knows it's way too early to celebrate yet, though. Ralf Schumacher leads from Michael, but that will soon change as Ralf comes in for his first of 2 stops. How will Ferrari react? Ross Brawn is the man with the plan. Michael comes in for his first stop, the lap after his brother. They look to continue their mid-season dominance. Michael has got ahead of Ralf, and once all the front runners begin their second stints, he will assume the lead. Coulthard's chances of victory receive a hammer blow in the form of a 10-second stop-go penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He drops to 5th. Irvine continues his charge and dives down the inside of Frentzen. The German uses desperation tactics to keep the Ulsterman behind. Accidentally or not, that manoeuvre will only serve to infuriate the already fired-up Jaguar team. Perhaps fearing a stop-go penalty, the German does the right thing shortly before the Adelaide hairpin. A third podium finish is in Montoya's future, but the crystal ball didn't figure engine failure into the equation. Irvine's Cosworth also lets him down on the verge of glory. He was running 7th and a points finish looked on the cards, but as Montoya also knows, Formula 1 V10s rarely battle on for adversity. Montoya's demise sets up a battle for third between Coulthard and Barrichello. The Brazilian is on a 3-stop strategy, the result of which will be clear very shortly. Barrichello gets out ahead, but there's still time for Coulthard to challenge for 4 championship points. Coulthard will have his chance soon as the battle for third encounters traffic. Jean Alesi, soon to be lapped Prost, enables the Scot to have a go down the inside. He has the best line into the corner, but Barrichello has more momentum at the exit and stays in front. Victory and a career milestone await Michael Schumacher at the checkered flag. The German's 6th win of the season also marks his 50th Formula One victory. Ralph could have made his brother's life more difficult, but for a bad set of tyres on his second stint. The remaining podium position goes to Barrichello, chased all the way by Coulthard.
It's the perfect result, as you said before. In Canada we had 1-2 Ralph, myself, and now we have 1-2 myself and Ralph, and Rubens next to us. Bit unexpected, I guess, for Rubens, coming from where he came. We did a perfect race, so obviously for Ferrari a very good day.
Michael Schumacher leads the Drivers' Championship by 31 points, and Ferrari have nearly double the constructors' points of the McLarens. With all this hard work done only halfway through the season, Ralph recognises his brother. It's time to cool off. Rural Northamptonshire cradles the historic Silverstone circuit, the home of the British Grand Prix. An aerial display by the world-famous Red Arrows is just one of the pre-race highlights. This is just a fraction of the pomp and circumstance that accompanies this race. Formula One grandee Michael Schumacher is on pole. He leads the Bridgestone Benefit, followed by the McLarens of Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard. Jaguar struggled during qualifying, while Jordan did well. Can both teams pull off an upset? Michael Schumacher holds his advantage over Hakkinen, while Coulthard and Trulli squabble for third. The McLaren sneaks ahead, but Trulli won't be dealt with easily. The Italian pays a big price for his fighting spirit. He's joined in the gravel trap by Panis, who collided with teammate Villeneuve. Schumacher and Hakkinen make a break for it up front, ahead of Montoya, who was 8th on the grid. Heidfeld takes 7th from Frentzen, without dire consequences, while the remarkably unscathed Coulthard starts his fight back from last place. Ron Dennis shows no trace of emotion, but that'll soon change. Coulthard's McLaren initially hid the damage it suffered from the collision with Trulli, but it rears its ugly head at Priory and puts the championship further out of reach. Hakkinen raises the Silver Arrow's morale by putting Schumacher under tremendous pressure. The Finn harnesses the overwhelming power of the Mercedes V10 to take the lead from the surprisingly obliging world champion. The Flying Finn is back. Further back, Montoya is running a strong third ahead of Barrichello, Ralf Schumacher and both Saubers. The cool temperatures of qualifying didn't suit Montoya's Michelins, but it's warmer now, and the Colombian is a legitimate threat to the front runners. He pulls out of Schumacher's slipstream and effortlessly moves into second thanks to a lighter fuel load. Hakkinen is in for his first stop, shortly after his compatriot Raikkonen. The senior Flying Finn loses the lead, but Montoya has yet to stop. Ralf Schumacher is 5th, just clear of the battling Heidfeld and Frentzen. Their fight gains greater significance as engine failure sidelines Schumacher. The answer lies in the telemetry, but even the latest technology can't save Ralf now. Michael Schumacher is in for his sole stop, while Hakkinen exits the pit lane after his second. Will he win at Silverstone for the first time? The leader's two-stop strategy has definitely worked for him. The same can't be said for Montoya, who's stuck behind the now second-place Barrichello. Schumacher exits behind the battling South Americans. but Barrichello and Montoya have yet to stop. Despite having a heavier fuel load, Barrichello keeps Montoya behind him. Has Ross Brawn's conservative strategy guaranteed a podium finish for both Ferraris? We'll soon find out as the Brazilian rejoins the race after his sole stop. A poor second stop and bad set of tyres handicapped Montoya, and as a result, he stays in fourth. Hakkinen is on his last lap, but the race leader won't be taking anything for granted. The Spanish Grand Prix disaster will still be fresh in his mind. The Finn allows himself a celebratory wave and is now just meters away from the checkered flag. Hakkinen wins the British Grand Prix, but Michael Schumacher increases his championship lead in second, and teammate Barrichello finishes third. The Saubers of Raikkonen and Heidfeld finish behind Montoya, but in the points. A great day for the Swiss team. Mika Hakkinen takes his first win of the season at round 11. It's been a long time coming, and is definitely one to savour for the team and his wife, Eya.
Mika, you've never won here at Silverstone before. Indeed, you haven't won in Formula 1 for nearly a year. How does it feel?
It feels really good. Obviously, after all this trouble that's been going on this year. So it's good to win it, obviously, and particularly here in Silverstone. Tried for English team and English crowd, so we made a great show.
The battle for the Drivers' Championship is temporarily forgotten as Formula 1 celebrates the return to form of one of its favourite sons. The German Grand Prix at Hockenheim could be the race where Williams dominate. Mika Hakkinen had enough horsepower to be best of the rest after qualifying. Ralf Schumacher starts behind Juan Pablo Montoya, who scored his first Formula 1 pole position, while Alonso's challenge almost melted away on the grid. High expectations raise tensions in the Williams garage. Starting from the pit lane is a major achievement for Minardi. The pace-setters make the most of the start, with Montoya leading Ralf Schumacher. Michael made a dreadful getaway. He's a potential and unavoidable hazard. Luciano Berti's Prost is a wreck, but at least it's still the right way up. Michael Schumacher's Ferrari also has terminal injuries. 2 damaged cars and plenty of wreckage leaves the ball firmly in the course of race director Charlie Whiting. The miraculously unscathed crash partners contemplate a very brief Grand Prix, but they'll get a second chance as the race has been stopped. The red flags put the spring back in Schumacher's step, and the spare Ferrari is almost ready. Those puncture-producing sections of carbon fibre have just about been cleared away, giving the world champion plenty of time to take 4th position on the grid. Prost have also done a great job to allow Bertie to restart. Tension with more than a hint of concern is the prevailing atmosphere at the restart. The Williams reenact their first getaway, but this time Michael Schumacher leaves the grid at something like normal speed. Hakkinen digs in for a long afternoon. He'll struggle to stay with the leading pair. The front-runners approach 220 miles per hour, and the slipstreaming begins. The Ferraris definitely have the legs of the McLarens, as demonstrated by Michael Schumacher. De La Rosa shows how not to approach a chicane at the expense of Heidfeld. King of the 2 stoppers, Rubens Barrichello is side by side with Coulthard. The McLaren driver has the inside line, but the light Ferrari easily drives round the Scot, who is relegated to 6th. Bernoldi and Fisichella battle for 13th. Bernoldi doesn't take any prisoners, but immediately pays for it. Despite the strong-arm tactics, the Italian battles on. Barrichello continues his two-stop assisted charge. Häkkinen's 4th place is under threat. The Finn provides less resistance than his teammate, allowing Barrichello to focus his attack on Michael Schumacher. Bernoldi repeats his corner-cutting antics. That could incur the wrath of the stewards. Montoya and Ralf Schumacher still lead, while Michael lets his better-equipped teammate pursue the Williams BMWs. Last-minute sub Ricardo Zonta is overzealous in his pursuit of Verstappen and carries out some unnecessary surgery. That's all Eddie Jordan needs after the grief he got for Frenson's mysterious sacking. Montoya looks odds-on for his first Grand Prix win. He has a sizable lead over Ralf Schumacher, who's being hunted down by Barrichello, but the Brazilian has yet to make his first of 2 stops. Schumacher is losing touch in 4th, but is well ahead of title rival Coulthard. The fight for 9th is Honda-powered, with the VARs of Panis and Villeneuve sandwiching Trulli's Jordan. The Italian's car looks nervous under braking and loses the battle for traction at the Ost curve. Barrichello is in for his first of 2 stops. Can the Ferrari number 2 maintain his pace and get back into contention in front of 5th placed Coulthard? The Scot moves ahead, but he'll have a hard time staying there. Especially if his Mercedes engine behaves like Häkkinen's. After his British Grand Prix success, normal service has been resumed. The Finn was running in 5th. Lack of horsepower affects Coulthard again. McLaren just can't live with Ferrari in this race, and Barrichello easily recaptures 4th. While the Brazilian carries on where he left off, his fellow South American is in big trouble. The fuel hose turns into a dripping tap and drops Montoya to 5th. Michael Schumacher's situation is even more desperate. A fuel pressure problem puts a record-equaling 51st victory out of the question. All this leaves the way clear for his brother to take his 3rd victory of the season, providing Williams have got their fuel rig sorted. A smooth pit stop puts him on course for the sweetest victory of all, one on home soil. Engine failure ensures Montoya won't be troubling his teammate. Coulthard picks up the pieces to run 3rd, while Ralf Schumacher looks secure in the lead. The German's Williams is surviving, despite Hockenheim's car-breaking reputation, unlike Coulthard's McLaren. A second Mercedes failure practically buries the Scots' championship hopes. Prospects for a 2nd place finish look good for Barrichello, who takes his final stop. Hydraulic problems put out Trulli. Eddie Jordan probably wanted to go home early anyway. Ralf Schumacher would be very happy if the checkered flag came out now, but the leader still has those tense last few laps to complete. The Arrows drivers may be oblivious to the number of laps left as they tussle amongst themselves. Bernoldi dives down the inside of Verstappen for 8th. The German crowd swells with national pride as Ralf Schumacher rounds the final corner and wins his home Grand Prix. Ralf finishes well ahead of Barrichello, Villeneuve and the 2 Benetton Renaults of Fisichella and Button. Montoya's retirement was a big help, but this was still a good performance by Ralf Schumacher. Villeneuve's 3rd place earns Craig Pollock plenty of Japanese brownie points, while Barrichello boosts Ferrari's monster Constructors' Championship total. The Canadian racks up an unexpected second podium finish of the season.
I've always had a bit of bad luck here. I've never really finished in a good position, and I mean, to be here today in a German package to win the race in Germany is a great feeling.
The Hungarian Grand Prix saw Nigel Mansell clinch the 1992 Drivers' Championship. Will it witness the coronation of a four-time champion in 2001? The crucial qualifying session saw Barrichello line up third behind Coulthard, who must beat pole sitter Michael Schumacher to keep alive his slim championship chances. A good start is a must here, and for Coulthard and Schumacher it's absolutely critical. The world champion gets one, but Coulthard is immediately challenged by Barrichello and drops to third. Disaster for the Scot. Catastrophe for Eddie Irvine, whose race lasts a matter of seconds. At the front, Michael Schumacher leads from Barrichello and Coulthard, while Montoya takes 8th place from Raikkonen. It's all going to plan for Ferrari as Coulthard is stuck in third and Ralph is fourth. His teammate struggles to keep Raikkonen ninth. Button is finding it hard to make any headway. A stop-go penalty for jumping the start makes sure of that. At least he gets a second chance, unlike Bertie, who has spun into retirement. Montoya has a setup problem, and just keeping the car on track is proving difficult. But he still has the wherewithal to stay 8th ahead of Raikkonen. Enrique Benoldi's error is beyond correction, and he's out of the race. The pit board makes enjoyable reading for Michael Schumacher, who's in a commanding lead. Barrichello's doing an excellent job of thwarting Coulthard's progress. Much to the chagrin of Ron Dennis and Adrian Newey. Their former world champion lies 6th behind Trulli and is closely followed by Heidfeld, Montoya and Raikkonen. The Finn tries an optimistic move down the inside, but pays for his desperation and now must fight off Heidfeld. Coulthard has closed right up with Barrichello, but as in Monaco, overtaking is nigh on impossible at the Hungaroring. The race leader comes in for his first stop. Schumacher temporarily drops to third behind Barrichello and Coulthard. Their stops will be crucial in deciding the Scots' championship fate. Barrichello makes his initial stop for fuel and new tyres, handing second place to the Scot. But for how long? Raikkonen's possession of 6th could also be temporary, with more unforced errors like that. The pressure is now firmly on Coulthard and the McLaren mechanics. It looked to be a good stop, and it gets the job done. Finally, something for Ron Dennis to cheer about. At the front, Michael Schumacher comes up to lap Panis, while avoiding Jenson Button's stricken Benetton Renault. The young Brit's wretched season shows no sign of improving. Alonso spins out of 17th position, a rare mistake by the Rookie of the Year candidate. Another debutant is also having an off day. Montoya's incorrect setup is exposed as Schumacher effortlessly puts a lap on him. The Colombian is running in a far from trouble-free 7th. Further ahead, 5th placed Hakkinen can afford to acknowledge his thousands of Hungarian fans. Michael Schumacher leaves the pits following his second stop. His mechanics have done their bit, and the German shows no sign of letting the side down, as the championship is tantalisingly close. The Ferrari mechanics face a critical test, as third-place Barrichello comes in for his final stop. Coulthard needs to put in some red-hot laps to guarantee second place. The Scott's job hasn't been made any easier thanks to Barrichello's ultra-fast pit crew. Montoya struggles to stay ahead of Panis, but once again an ill-handling Williams diverts him onto the scenic route. Fortunately, Coulthard has been free of such distractions on the run-up to his most critical pit stop of the season. It's a good one. However, Barrichello is dangerously close. There's fractions of a second in it, but that's enough for Barrichello to retake second. Coulthard's relegation takes the pressure off Michael Schumacher, and the race leader can practically cruise to the line. Hydraulics failure ensures Trulli won't get that far. Panis BAR succumbs to electrical failure, while Häkkinen's race has livened up. The Finn puts Ralf Schumacher's defensive skills to the test, as they battle for fourth position. Michael Schumacher is well in control on this tight, twisty track, and De La Rosa's lap Jaguar is yet another obstacle between Coulthard and staying in championship contention. Getting to grips with the new car has proved almost as big a hurdle for Prost debutant Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Michael Schumacher is just a few corners away from perhaps the most important victory of his career. The travelling Tifosi rejoice as Michael Schumacher wins the Hungarian Grand Prix and equals Alain Prost's all-time record and, most importantly, earns his fourth world title. John Todd and Ross Brawn start the party on the pit wall, while Schumacher receives early congratulations from Barrichello. The Parc Fermé is overflowing with emotion as Schumacher receives the accolades he deserves.
In such a moment, I'm probably not a bad racing driver, but I'm quite a bad person in finding the right words in such moments. So you have to forgive me. I can't say much more than it has been a beautiful weekend. I mean, we did everything we could have done. We have such a great crew. I mean, such a good team. I'm really in love with all of them, and it makes so much fun to work with them. It's their achievement, and I'm more than thankful to all of them.
The traditional Schumacher leap is fueled by the fact that Ferrari has retained their constructors' title, scoring nearly double the points of McLaren. Maranello's finest have crushed the opposition. Both championships have been wrapped up with 4 rounds to go. Round 14 sees the drivers tackle arguably the most formidable challenge on the calendar, Belgium's awesome Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Every vantage point is used for this potentially historic race. Michael Schumacher could score a record-breaking 52nd Grand Prix win here. A wet-dry qualifying session saw the ubiquitous Montoya take his second pole of the season, ahead of his teammate Ralf Schumacher. Both could put the world champion's history-making aspirations on hold. The field is all set for the sprint down to La Source, except for Frentzen, whose stall throws away 4th position on the grid. A great shame for Alain Prost's cash-strapped team. Frentzen will be joined on the back row by soon-to-be ex-pole sitter Montoya, who has also stalled. Start take 2 sees Ralf Schumacher lead from his brother. Fisichella utilises Benetton's new traction control system to seize 4th behind Barrichello. 5th placed Villeneuve accelerates towards Eau Rouge, site of one of his biggest accidents 3 years ago. The Schumacher brothers battle at over 200 miles per hour. Ralph forces Michael wide, but he still easily takes the lead. Barrichello holds third, followed by Fisichella, Hakkinen, Coulthard and Villeneuve. An anxious Alain Prost watches as Luciano Berti gets too close to Irvine, with the worst possible result. Irvine emerged unscathed and helps the marshals in the desperate scramble to get medical aid to the Brazilian. Sensibly, the race is stopped, while Berti is transferred to a local hospital. A rear wing problem leads to Ralf Schumacher's bizarre predicament. The mechanics run out of time while fixing it, and the team believe it is better to have him start from the back than be penalised later in the race. Start number 3 sees Michael Schumacher take control again, as Fisichella improves on his previous getaway and climbs to second, ahead of Barrichello and Hakkinen. Montoya gets bumped wide by De La Rosa, and he won't let that go unpunished. The entire width of the track is used for the battle for 7th between the Jordans of new boy Alesi, Trulli and Villeneuve's BAR. Trulli grabs the inside line, forcing Villeneuve onto the grass, and Panis into desperate evasive action. As a result, the Frenchman drops back to 11th. Montoya has made his way up to 12th, but his BMW engine ensures he doesn't get any further. Patrick Head knows that Williams will require much better reliability to mount a title challenge next year. Ferrari's bulletproof package allows race leader Schumacher to throw caution to the wind. Fisichella is still second, but comes under increasing pressure from Coulthard. Hakkinen fights off the attention of Barrichello, who has dropped to 5th. But the Finn won't have to worry about the Brazilian now. A pit stop beckons. Coulthard has moved up to 2nd after Fisichella's final stop. Can the Italian quickly redress the balance? It's touch and go, but the Benetton has more momentum and reclaims 2nd position. Panis and Marquez lapped cars obscure the intense battle for 2nd. It's Mercedes versus Renault, and the Silver Arrow takes a comprehensive victory. Fisichella will do well to keep Coulthard in sight for the rest of the race. It's a three-way fight for the last championship point between Alesi, the recovering Barrichello, and Ralf Schumacher. The Ferrari number 2 picks his spot, moves out of the Frenchman's slipstream, and takes 6th place. More frustration for Eddie Jordan as Trulli's Honda engine chooses the self-destruct option. He has borne the brunt of the team's technical problems. Trulli's demise promotes his teammate up to 6th. But Alesi's possession of the last point will be brief if Ralf Schumacher has anything to do about it. His brother is on the verge of an historic victory. He rounds the final corner to win the Belgian Grand Prix, his 52nd Grand Prix win, beating Alain Prost's mark set in 1993. Coulthard's impressive drive to 2nd place is obscured by this monumental achievement. Fisichella's podium finish is also a great performance. However, Michael Schumacher is the man of the moment.
Thanks to whatever problem Williams had, I didn't have to fight against them because they saw the first start, they just pulled away and I had no chance. And I think even on the second start, if Ralf on the 2nd position, he would have just beat me into the first corner. We didn't need to find out, and I had a clear race from that moment on, and I was really delighted.
This is certainly one of the most important trophies Michael Schumacher has ever received. This victory marks him out as perhaps the greatest Grand Prix driver of the modern era. On the eve of the Italian Grand Prix, Formula One paid its respects to the thousands who died in New York on September the 11th. Among other tributes, Ferrari decided to race without sponsorship. Alex Young becomes Malaysia's first F1 driver by taking Tarso Marquez's seat at Minardi, while Thomas Enger achieves that distinction for the Czech Republic. He subs for the injured Luciano Berti at Prost. Montoya took his third pole of the season ahead of the Ferraris, with Barrichello in front of Schumacher for the first time in 2001. Monza's first chicane caused plenty of headaches last year, so the teams braced themselves for the worst. Montoya gets away well, as do the Ferraris. 20 of the 22 cars jockey for position as Heidfeld and Fisichella start from the pit lane. Villeneuve might as well have done. As expected, mayhem ensues. Hakkinen misses the chicane completely, while Button uses Trulli as a brake, putting the Jordan out of commission. Montoya locks his left front wheel in an effort to stay in front of Barrichello. Ralf Schumacher drops his brother to fourth, but the world champion fights back. He has a light fuel load, the inside line, and third place. Michael now focuses on showing Barrichello who's boss. The front runners accelerate towards the Parabolica. Further back, the best battle on the track is between Raikkonen and Verstappen. The Sauber pulls out of the Arrow slipstream, brakes that little bit later, a bit too late, and the Dutchman takes full advantage. Ralf Schumacher's losing touch with the leading trio as Coulthard closes. Pedro de la Rosa holds down an impressive sixth for Jaguar. His teammate is fading fast as Raikkonen demotes him to ninth. More Renault engine woes for Button, who was running last after his collision with Trulli, while fifth place Coulthard's Mercedes V10 also signals its demise in spectacular fashion. Barrichello's efforts are just as dramatic. Ross Brawn looks on with quiet satisfaction as his number 2 takes the lead. Tifosi favourite John Alesi has fifth place Verstappen in his sights, but his lack of brakes at the first chicane could get him in trouble with the stewards. Montoya's second place is under threat from Michael Schumacher. He closes right up to the Williams at the chicane, forcing Montoya into a questionable manoeuvre to stay ahead. Hakkinen has almost fought his way back into the top 10. Bernoldi's Arrows is the last obstacle in his way. The Finn uses his horsepower advantage to make easy work of the Brazilian. The Jaguar R2 has been far from trouble-free. Eddie Irvine retires for the 10th time this season, thanks to a misfire and an oil leak. While an experienced hand goes out, rookie Alex Young finds his limits. Michael Schumacher comes in for his first of 2 stops. Team principal Jean Todt seems satisfied with his pit crew's work as Montoya moves up to second. Will his one-stop strategy count against him in the later stages? It's definitely helping him at the moment as he assumes the lead, courtesy of Barrichello's fuel rig mix-up during his first stop. On the eve of the race, Mika Hakkinen announced that he will be taking a sabbatical from Formula One. Transmission failure will only reinforce his decision. Poor reliability has dogged this year's McLaren Mercedes. That's their 11th retirement of the season. Montoya has also been plagued by ill fortune, but he has the talent, the machinery, and the opportunity to win the Italian Grand Prix. Verstappen's race showed plenty of early promise, but ends disappointingly due to an engine problem. Montoya comes in for his sole stop and takes on a pair of used front tyres. His front wing is adjusted to prevent excessive wear on the Michelins. The Colombian drops to third and his teammate takes the lead, but Ralph has yet to come in. Williams team manager Dickie Stanford keeps a watchful eye on proceedings as Ralf Schumacher comes in for his sole stop and receives the same treatment as Montoya. Ralph drops to fourth and Barrichello assumes the lead, but he has yet to make his second stop. Michael Schumacher comes in for the second time. This has been a strangely low-key race for the German, who drops to fourth. The Ferrari mechanic's focus shifts to Barrichello, who is about to make his final stop. This should ensure the win for Montoya, but he has had victory snatched from his grasp already this season. Barrichello is now third, but Ralph's brake and tyre problems give the Brazilian the chance to try some slipstreaming. They're side by side going into the chicane. Barrichello gets his nose in front, but Ralph hasn't given up yet. He brakes very late, cuts the corner, and wisely lets Barrichello back through. It's doubtful whether the officials would have let him keep that position. Barrichello's pit board indicates that Montoya has a relatively small lead, but it's enough to give him his first Grand Prix victory. The Brazilian finishes ahead of Ralf and Michael Schumacher, while Pedro de la Rosa earns 2 more points for Jaguar. Is this the first of many victories for Formula One's new superstar? The Tifosi sportingly applaud Montoya, who becomes Colombia's first Grand Prix winner. Montoya takes an overdue first win. However, Barrichello was unlucky not to take his second.
So happy, you know, and first of all I think I want to thank everybody at Williams, BMW and Michelin. They've done a fantastic job for me and I'm just so pleased with the result.
The world-famous Indianapolis circuit plays host to the United States Grand Prix, the first major sporting event in the country since September the 11th. Round 16 of the championship also marks John Alesi's 200th race. Michael Schumacher qualified on pole for the 10th time this season. His old rival would have lined up second, but he exited the pits under a red light during warm-up, had his best time excluded, and was demoted to fourth, behind Ralf Schumacher and Juan Pablo Montoya. Even at his last race, Joe Ramirez still feels the tension, as we are seconds away from the start. Michael Schumacher maintains his slender advantage. Montoya gets past Ralf, and Barrichello demotes Hakkinen to fifth. Montoya tries a hopeful move round the outside. Barrichello shows how it should be done, and takes third. The field have negotiated the first corner safely, while Montoya tries to keep Michael Schumacher in sight. The leaders approach 220 miles per hour on the start-finish straight, while Nick Heidfeld, Kimi Räikkönen and Jarno Trulli make use of the full width of the track as they squabble over seventh. Unfortunately, 3 into 1 won't go, and Räikkönen's front wing is testament to that. Schumacher emerges from the haze, while Barrichello hassles second-place Montoya. The Brazilian's usual light fuel load helps him make easy work of the Colombian, but Montoya only needs to stop once. Will that help him get back ahead? Michael Schumacher helps his teammates quest for second place in the Drivers' Championship. 10 points would put it out of Coulthard's reach. Alesi is determined to celebrate his hallmark race with some championship points. Button does little to spoil Alesi's anniversary, and the Frenchman is up to 8th, much to Flavio Briatore's annoyance. Barrichello's superiors will be in a better mood as the race leader prepares for his first of 2 stops. Jean Todt hopes that his mechanics can make this risky strategy pay off. The Brazilian's stop allows Schumacher and Montoya to retake first and second position, and Coulthard will shortly move into third place. Montoya has the leader in his sights. Despite that fact, Patrick Head looks far from impressed. Once again, Montoya uses his US racing knowledge to get good momentum off the banked curve and tucks into the world champion's slipstream. Schumacher is wary of a move down the outside, he leaves the inside exposed, and Montoya isn't slow on the uptake. While Montoya goes from strength to strength, his teammate slips down the order. Nick Heidfeld takes 8th place with ease. Heidfeld's antics make great viewing for the Sauber mechanics, while their Williams counterparts have more pressing matters to deal with. Montoya exits after his sole stop and rejoins 5th behind Barrichello. Ralf Schumacher has had a lackluster race, and it doesn't get any better. That self-induced retirement will go down like a lead balloon in the Williams garage. More bad news for Williams. A second victory for Montoya is put on hold by hydraulic pump failure. This wasn't the triumphant return he had been hoping for, but it was great while it lasted. Pedro de la Rosa's confidence has been boosted by his points finish in Italy, and he now targets the top 10, but his competitive instincts get the better of him, and Villeneuve pays the price. Craig Pollock knows the consequences of clashes like that, and the former Indy 500 winner is forced out. With all the drama up front, Häkkönen's progression